This episode commences with Cray, who is hunting for the minuscule ooze within the chamber, but cannot locate it. He perches on his cot and utters, "I simply must contemplate this serenely." When I unsealed the container within the Arctic canine's lair, there was unequivocally nothing within, and prior to that, it resided within the vault this entire duration, and I never accessed it. Furthermore, the vault itself is a relic. This implies there's but one deduction. The strongbox was perpetually vacant. He then reclines on the mattress, murmuring, "If I ponder this further, I shall become queasy." The vista then transitions to Damas, where we observe the champions battling a grizzly. The maiden states, "We are on the tertiary tier, it appears. The spectral stages have abruptly ascended over the preceding fortnight. Recon missions from the guild are not effortless whatsoever." The commander informs her that examining irregularities in prize coffers is also vital for the realm, and that the 1,000 deceptions are also probing it. The subsequent morn, we perceive Cray strolling down the corridor, appearing fatigued. He encounters his companion, who informs him it's midday. So why is he awake so late? She conveys to him, the guild desires him to present a comprehensive account on the Arctic canine's lair. Cray instructs her to inquire of Tino, as she was the chief, and he only appeared there at the conclusion. His companion tells him that Tino is practicing with Liz. So Cray inquires if there's any activity in the metropolis. She replies that she'll investigate it, and notifies him that Tino is in the exercise room on the second subterranean level. Craig proceeds to check on Tino while his companion reflects. From environmental catastrophes like tremors to irregularities in prize coffers and disputes amongst the aristocracy of the metropolis, Craig continues to foresee occurrences precisely without any substantiation. I've witnessed it repeatedly. Perhaps the initial instance was happenstance, but then the second, the third. I'm certain of it. What precisely is transpiring in our metropolis? Cray arrives at the adventurers' assembly, where Sven declares to him, "You must halt the suffocating phantom, Cray. We cannot utilize the practice area." Cray retorts, "Vanquishing beasts isn't truly his forte." Sven informs him that Enzyme and Lucia are also occupied, so there's no one else capable of handling it. Cray responds, "It seems she's neutralized each one and progressed to the overseer's quarters. But once she arrived there, she likely grew weary and departed for home." Sven tells him that the nocturnal fortress has it. So what does he imply by she grew weary? He appends that it's immaterial now, because if no one enters the chamber, Tino will perish. Craig replies that it's not that simple, then unlocks the portal, and we observe Tina on the floor, with Liz standing above her, stating, "Inform me, Tina, why aren't you rising? Is this all you possess? Or are you restraining yourself and deriding me? Do you believe I won't eliminate you?" Liz persists, addressing Tina, but Tina remains taciturn, choosing to terminate her. Liz elevates her armament, but Cray enters just in the nick of time. Liz inquires why he's present, claiming she's providing Tina her instruction. She informs Cray that Tina has immense aptitude, but is still quite feeble. Cray requests her to compose herself, stating he comprehends her fervor, but Tina has attained her threshold for the present. Liz ceases the exercise and consents to proceed with it later. At that juncture, Tina rises and informs Cray she can still function, so Liz decides to recommence the instruction. Cray then escorts his companions outside, permitting Tina to gain prowess. Subsequently, Cray and his companions discuss the northerly pathway, which was recently barricaded due to the emergence of assorted monsters. They also learned of Voyager, who were assaulted by specters from the Arctic canine's lair. Cray discerns what's occurring and why GRC requested an audience with him, trusting Arc will be present since individuals confide in him more than they confide in Cray as a commander and combatant. Arc lacks nothing. Sven observes Cray immersed in contemplation and inquires what he's pondering. Cray responds that if he cannot utilize the practice area, perhaps he could undertake an assignment for the guild. Sven doesn't fully comprehend, so Cray requests him to inform GRC he's too engaged to convene with him, and then departs. Craig's companions wonder what to do with him. They've never been able to grasp what transpires within his intellect. They know he cherishes the Grievers party, but one should not undervalue him based on his external facade. The vista then transitions to GRC and his aide. She apprises him that there have been no alterations in Lei's activities near the Arctic canine's lair, nor has the mana degree fluctuated. However, they still don't grasp what prompted the abnormality in the prize coffer. GRC resolves to converse with Cray, but his aide informs him that the obsidian emblem notified her that Cray is too preoccupied to meet. Recognizing that Cray might know something, GRC decides to pursue him, understanding that Cray's recent expedition to examine the prize coffers is peculiar and suggests something substantial is developing. Meanwhile, an aged gentleman remarks, "I never anticipated a superior hunter would become involved. No one could have foreseen this." The gentleman beside him replies, "It might just be a matter of duration before the Explorers Guild uncovers this location." The aged man responds, "The 1,000 deceptions is a man not to be trifled with." The gentleman says, "I can't envision typical hunters comprehending the grand undertaking you're conducting here until they locate the origin of all this. They won't abandon the vicinity." The aged man clarifies that he is harnessing the immense potency coursing through the ley lines and accumulating it here, which is inducing modifications in the prize coffer. "If my trial advances and validates my hypothesis, we should be capable of generating prize coffers at will." The gentleman inquired, "Is relinquishing the investigation facility our sole alternative? I can't believe we'll have to commence anew. And why is Sophia on furlough now?" "She's responsible for the security framework." The aged man replies, "I'm the one who authorized her furlough. I contacted her through the resonance gem. She'll return shortly. She's remarkably gifted. If she were present, she'd have resolved this enigma for us. Regardless, we need to amass all the data we can for now." The vista shifts to a blazing city with inhabitants escaping in terror. Cray is also petrified, but it proves to be a dream, and he awakens, wondering if the ooze he liberated is perilous. "It's not as if my visions ever materialized," he mutters to himself. Liz then inquires if he's unoccupied today. Cray replies that Tino has practiced today, to which Liz responds, "I believe she'll shatter if I press her excessively, so I'm taking a respite today. Let's have a day of leisure, just you and I." Cray consents to devote the day with her. The vista shifts to GRC conversing with his aide, who states, "I can scarcely fathom you came here individually." GRC replies, "If I hadn't, we wouldn't be progressing anywhere swiftly." He intends to speak with Cray, but Liz, exasperated, informs him Cray is exceptionally engaged today. GRC inquires her about the nocturnal fortress, reminding her, "He requested a chronicle on a prize coffer above tier 7. Liz, frustrated, exclaims at him, "You depend on Cray far too extensively. I don't care about you, but you're spoiling my rendezvous." Liz then assaults GRC, but he deflects her blows, stating, "Even a placid individual like myself has his limitations." Craig approaches Kane and states, "If there's no predicament with the ley lines," she responds, "I journey to the Arctic canine's lair. If I detect anything peculiar, I'll notify you." Craig informs her, "I'm actually more apprehensive about the other affair, but I cannot divulge it to you yet. There might be listeners anywhere." He contemplates to himself, "Perhaps I've unleashed a hazardous ooze, and there's no method I can disclose that to her." He then says, "I cannot depart right now, but I'll have our faction assist as much as we can." The vista then transitions to Liz battling Gark. She mocks him, "You've become frail. Sitting behind a desk will do that to you." GRC attempts to strike her with a potent blow, but she evades it effortlessly, gracefully leaping onto his back. He swiftly attempts to hurl her to the ground, but she lands smoothly and remarks, "You've declined so significantly that I almost feel remorse for you. I'll release you for old time's sake." This infuriates GRC, and he unleashes his full capacity. Then GRC launches a potent assault on Liz, but his motions are sluggish, permitting her to obstruct his blows with ease. He attempts a strong kick, but she dodges effortlessly, causing his kick to splinter the wall behind her. At that moment, Cray intervenes and tells them, "That's sufficient. We're finished here." Both of them cease immediately. Liz approaches Cray with a grin and embraces. Meanwhile, Eva enters the practice area and is appalled to see it in disarray, shouting in frustration afterward. Cray strolls with Liz, who remarks, "GRC has truly become feeble. Advancing age is merciless." Cray responds, "I don't believe he's especially frail. You shouldn't gauge potency by your own criteria since you're still in active duty." The specters feel more formidable than ever, almost as if they're truly tier 8. She continues. Cray inquires her how challenging they are compared to the Arctic Canine's lair leader. Liz scoffs, saying she scarcely recollects such refuse, prompting Cray to recall how effortlessly she vanquished that leader. Thinking to himself how such exploits are readily forgotten by her, Cray grows uneasy about the potential devastation news could bring to the city. He then inquires of Liz, "Suppose the entire city of Zebordia was obliterated, what would you do?" She replies, "We'd escape somewhere tropical together. I've never observed the ocean." Cray thinks to himself, "I'm speaking of a calamity on a national scale, and she's still so sanguine. But that's Liz. I need to learn from her." Abruptly, Liz hands her satchel to Cray and dashes off towards a man, seizing him by the arm and flinging him to the ground. Cray is astonished and inquires her about it. She clarifies that the man was gazing at them. Cray instructs her to release him, stating it's not a problem, and apologizes to the man, who then flees in terror. Liz, however, believes that Cray must have orchestrated the scenario, and she embraces him, saying, "You're such a skilled performer." Cray is perplexed by what she's discussing. Meanwhile, the man Liz threw to the ground ponders to himself. "What just transpired? I maintained my distance, but somehow she knew I was observing.